I'm Effie, and my plan this week is to read for 24 hours non-consecutively. Well, I say that is my plan, but as you will see, things didn't go quite to plan. So I'm about 3.5 hours into things, and I decided to start Written by a Woman, which I can't remember the author, but I'm sure I'll have the cover on screen. And I'm really enjoying it. I'm 148 pages in, which means that it's reading quicker than I would normally expect my reading speed to be. But it's just so addictive. Like, the basic concept is this woman starts at a tech company, and like, from meeting one of her bosses, she's like, this guy is so attractive. So she goes home and she writes this real person fic. It's based on what he looks like. She doesn't really know him. And then, like, a year later, this fic has absolutely blown up. And essentially, like, he's attracted to her, but he hasn't said anything because he's the boss. And then he ends up finding out about the fic, and he's like, oh, okay, so she's interested too. And it's just this, like, really cute, because it's in dual point of view, so it's really cute the way they're both, like, kind of vibing with each other, but also, like, not taking it any further. And I like that it was kind of self-aware, because the prologue where she first meets her boss, she's, like, proper thirsting over him. And then the next chapter, she's like, yeah, this is kind of inappropriate, the way that I am objectifying him so much. And just overall, I'm having a lot of fun with it, and it's very readable. So I've got about 17 and a half hours left, which I think is going to be a real stretch, because for reasons, I only have about 24 hours left to complete this. So somehow I think I'm not going to get 24 hours done. Like, why did I think I was going to manage 24 hours in the first place? I have around about 100 pages left of Written by a Woman, and I'm really enjoying it. It's been kind of a slow build-up of their relationship. Like, yes, they could be having conversations, but it kind of feels like the point of the story is the miscommunication. And, like, not in a way where it feels like it would be easy for them to have these conversations. Like, there's some very real barriers to their relationship, and you're seeing on both sides that they've got these feelings, and you're seeing that they're reciprocated, but the characters don't know it. I'm having such an enjoyable time, and I think it's got a really good balance of being self-aware of exactly what it's writing, whilst also kind of fueling the fantasy sort of situation. So I'm vibing. I don't know what I'm going to move on to next. Like, there's a couple of books I really should read, but I'm not sure what I want to read. With just under 16 hours left on the timer, I have finished a book. So what's that in terms of, like, maths? Why do I do this? Why do I start filming when I don't have all my duckies in the row? So yeah, it took me just over 8 hours to read a 382 page book, which feels pretty quick for me, I'll be honest. I overall really enjoyed Written by a Woman. I think there wasn't that much spice to it. There was, like, a couple of chapters, and, like, it was fine, but it was kind of like one scene after another, and it was a bit like, I don't know, like, my relationship to spice in books is a bit odd. Like, I often zone out. Like, I have absolutely no issue with spice in books, but I find that my mind wanders, especially in this case, because I felt like there were a few plot elements that I was interested to see where they were going to go, but instead we had two spice scenes back to back. So, like, wasn't bad at all. I just would have preferred either to have only had one spice scene or for there to be a bit of a gap between them. But yeah, I don't know what else to say. It was really enjoyable, sweet, the characters were fun, and I could see myself continuing this series in the future. And I think I'm now going to move on to, I'm not sure, because I've got 2 books I really should kind of make some progress on. The Elrian Code and Beyond the Planet of the Vampires. So I think I might kind of switch and swap between those 2 for the remaining, like, just under 16 hours. And hopefully make some decent progress there. I started Beyond the Planet of the Vampires and I got about 10% in. And I just think it's going to have to be a DNF because it's such a sort of experimental, conceptual story that I cannot wrap my head around a single thing that's going on. And I just feel like I'm losing my mind as I read it. I don't know. Maybe I'll try it again at some point in the future. But for me, it just isn't working. And I feel like 10% in is a good amount to know that this book is not going to work for me. And I'm kind of sad because I had tried to read it in the past, but I'd picked it up before going to sleep. So I thought, oh, maybe the reason that I was confused and didn't get it was just because I was on the edge of sleep, but that really doesn't seem to be the case. I think it's just this really unique writing style. I guess they can't all be winners. So I went for a nap earlier, which obviously cut into the amount of time that I've got to read. But considering I'm not going to get a chance to sleep tonight, I figured it was probably a good idea to go for a nap if I was feeling tired today. And I was going to come on here and be like, oh, I have 15 hours left on my timer and 15 hours until my cut-off point. And then I realised my maths is off. And in fact, I have 13 hours until my cut-off point and just under 15 hours on my timer. So I think what I'm going to do is continue the way that I've been doing things and timing in the same way, stopping and starting the timer, but it's going to be less about actually hitting that 24-hour mark and more about how close to the 24-hour mark I can get. I'm already anticipating that I'm going to have at least 2 hours left when I have to cut this off, but can I get it so that it's like 2 hours, maybe 3 hours, because I've got a couple of things I need to do today, or is it going to be wildly off? I have plans in the future to do this again, but in a much less condensed way. So very much a case of reading how I would naturally read. How long does it take me to meet that 24-hour point? In terms of reading, I think I said earlier that I had decided to DNF Beyond the Planet of the Vampires. So I've picked up the Elrian Code and immediately I'm sucked into this world. There's dragons, there's politicking. I'm only on chapter 2 and I'm already loving it so much. These characters are so interesting and I'm really looking forward to unwrapping the layers and seeing their development. So I'm in the middle of cooking tea and I've just sat down for like 5 minutes whilst B takes over and does a bit of the cooking. And I realised that I forgot to stop my timer earlier. So all of this, and I forgot to pause it, so my timing will be completely off. So I guess we're going to scrap the 24-hour thing. I managed to get to around 14 hours remaining, so 10 hours of reading. But that is obviously with me forgetting to pause my timer. I will continue until I need to cut off this vlog and I'll tell you my thoughts on the things that I'm reading. But yeah, well done for me failing this, I suppose. As I say, I do have plans to repeat this in a slightly different format in the near future, but I guess I'll see you again when I've got another update. I'm going to be completely honest here. and I didn't get much read since my last update. I think I got 1 or 2 pages read, but that's about it. So my overall total, bearing in mind my timer I left running, so it's not going to be super accurate, but I ended up reading for around about 10 hours, and I got one book completely finished that was written by a woman, like that's the title, and I started and DNF'd at 10%, Beyond the Planet of the Vampires, and I started and I'm continuing the Elrian Code. I got like 6% of the way into the Elrian Code. So Beyond the Planet of the Vampires would have been about 25 pages, and the Elrian Code would have been about 31 pages. So what's that? I'm sure I'll have like numbers on screen, but I think Written by a Woman was 382 pages. So we'll say 30 pages for the Elrian Code, so 32 add 55. My brain's not working on all cylinders. Alexa, what's 382 plus 55?
382 plus 55 is 437.
Okay, so in 10 hours I read 437 pages. So I managed to read a little faster than I would say my usual average reading speed is, because that works out at about 43 pages an hour. As I've said before, I am planning on doing this in the near future and actually succeeding, not it all going to pot. But I'll be interested to see what my reading speed is like when I do this next time. But until next time, love you! And you can find me deep in the marginalia.